we love to hear the stories, so the more stories you tell, the better.
Yeah.
Okay, Marty.
Okay. Inez, why don't you tell me your name, your date of birth, your maiden name, your mother and father?
My name is Inez Grignon. My maiden name was Inez Adams. And my dad's name was James Adams. And my mother's Julia. And my grandfather was Joseph Skenador. But I forgot my grandma's name though. I think it was Marion, I'm pretty sure. And let's see.
Brothers
And there's just three of us. I didn't come from a big family. I'm the oldest one and two brothers. Only one girl and two brothers.
Tell me their names.
Urban Adams, mine is Inez, and then there's Urban and Ira Adams.
And where were you born?
Oneida. But I don't know exactly where I was born though. It was to my grandma or grandpa's house, or it was at home though.
Where was the location of your grandma's house?
My grandpa's house was up on the Ridge Road going towards Freedom, and it's just below the hill where the bar, it used to call Tip's Bar. This next house, my ma's house, then down the hill was my grandpa's home, farm. He had a farm.
Was that going towards the quarry or the other way?
Going towards Freedom.
Towards Freedom?
Yes.
Okay. And how big a farm did your father have?
Well, my dad didn't have no farm. He only had an acre of land, about an acre and a half, I'd say. And all he had was planted corn and potatoes and that vegetables, what we had to have at home. He never farmed, my dad.
What kind of work did your father do?
He'd done more construction work, like building silos and sidewalks, basements, and tearing buildings down. Construction work, more like.
And your mother?
My mother was, well, she used to go around to the neighbors and do house cleaning for the farmers, white people, you know, for them. And then we had moved and lived over towards where, I guess they used to call, I don't know what's the name of the bar now, but it used to be Gersal's there, that bar there. Across the road was, I think his name was Herbert, I don't know if it's Herbert Cornelius or Herbert Skenador. He used to have a blacksmith shop there. And at that time, there was that real epidemic flu going around. That was the real flu. And people were dying right and left. And my ma went over there and used to take care of them people. There was 2 caskets in that house, and she was taking care of one person. And she used to go back and forth. We lived across the road. She went across the road and she'd go take care of them people. They had the flu. She never got it. And one time we snuck over there as kids. She told us not to come over there. We snuck out of the house and went over there. We must have been only about, my brother must have been about 5 and I was about 7, something like that. First thing you know, we were in the house there. Oh, did we catch heck? She sent us home. She was so scared that we'd get that flu, because that was bad. That time people were dying right and left at the time. And but we never got sick though. We didn't. I don't know why. Then she used to go around. Then we had moved back up towards on top of the hill there. My ma's place used to be right next to Tip's Bar, that white house there. That was my ma and dad's place, and we lived there. And then she took care, worked for the farmers across the road. There's the Gus Geezy's, and mostly farmers. She worked for house cleaning and stuff, washing. And then they had their own, they used to plant contract beans, or contract cucumbers, and they'd hire someone to come over and pick cucumbers or beans, whatever. And we used to get out there and help too. Us kids had to go out there and help my mom pick beans. And them days, it used to be in the 90s to 103, 105, them days. My dad would make us get out there about 7 o'clock in the morning, get out in that field and pick beans or whatever, and till about 10:30, 11 o'clock, because it got so hot those days. So then we'd quit right there and go in then. My mom would make a big kettle of soup or something, and we'd lunch on that, you know. And she fed the ones that were picking beans for us. She fed them too.
I'm assuming that at that time there was no running water and electricity.
Oh no, there was no running water. We had to pump water or we hauled water. It seemed like them days pretty everybody had to haul water, and we had to haul wood and cut wood. My dad cut wood. We had to haul the wood, pile wood. Then he used to work for the farmers, like the Aldenhovens and Garveys and all them farmers around there. He used to go clear their land. It was all woods. I mean, he'd cut the trees down by hand, axe and saws. He'd cut the trees down, clear an acre of land. $3 an acre he used to get. And he used to trim them trees, what he cut down, piled up, and he had us kids, us two oldest ones, go out there. We had to help him pile brush, put them in piles here and there. And after he had it all piled and cut, now pole wood, we had to pile that. And then later on, then maybe after the trees were trimmed and trees were cut down, then we used to go help him. He'd grub stumps. So we had to go help him. Me and my oldest brother, we'd go pile stumps, and we dug stumps, what we could do. We'd pile stumps. There'd be piles here and there.
There's plenty of work to do.
Oh yes, we had a lot of work to do. We worked, we didn't fool around. My dad was strict. He made us get on a ball. We ain't no fooling. You ain't sleeping until 9, 10 o'clock in the day. You get up when he gets up.
Where did you go to school?
I went to a public school there, that Elm Hill School they call it. That's towards Freedom that way. We used to have to walk to school. There was no buses and that all like today. And we used to walk to school right in the winter time, cold. Oh, then now and then the farmers out in Hooven would hitch up his team of horses onto a sleigh. And he had about 5 kids to take to school, so he'd give us a ride on the sleigh and take us to school and come get us in the evening. But that's not every day. If it was a nice day, then we had to walk.
Don't forget to pick those people up. Okay. All right. Now, you said that your mother helped care for some of the sick people.
Yes.
Did she have any special medicines that she used that she shared
She
with
didn't give them the medicine. All she had to do was, take care of them and give them their medication.
Okay.
They had it there.
Now, did you have any kind of special recipes or crafts or heirlooms that your mother might have done? As an example,
No,
did she do rugs or?
She wasn't much for that, but she would like make homemade blankets, and we had to, tie them. Have us kids help. She'd have them out, and we had to tie the blankets after they were made, and we sewed a lot of them by hand, piece by piece, And she didn't have no sewing machine. A lot of that was handmade. We sewed by hand.
What about the woodworking? Your father and your brothers worked in the woods. Did they do any basket making or?
Well, my grandma and grandpa used to make baskets and stuff, and I used to go help them. My grandpa would strip the poles and make strips of basket stuff, and my grandma would cut them so wide, and I had to dye them, dip them in dyes, and I had to help her with that. Be rolls and rolls of them ribbons, all different widths and colors. I had to do that. Then she used to make her own. My grandpa had a farm. He had cows. He had about 10 head of cows them days, and he had a team of horses and one riding horse for to hitch onto a buggy, horse and buggy. Like he wants to go to Seymour, go to town, he'd hitch up the horse and buggy and go to town. now and then they'd take me along. My grandma used to dress me up. I used to have to wear black stockings and button shoes that buttoned down the sides. And my grandma would put a white dress on me, and I used to have fire red hair. Always had red hair. And she used to have a great big green bow ribbon and tie it across, and it really brought the red out. And I was loaded with freckles that stuck out like this on my face. And that really showed up more with the green ribbon on my hair. And then my grandpa would take a couple of cans of cream. He had a separator, and he used to separate the milk. And the cream went in one can, and milk, skim milk on one side. And he had a cream separator in the basement, and I used to have to help him separate the milk. I used to have to crank that. He had great big tubs on top with milk, where he dumped the milk in there. And then we'd have to crank that, and that milk would go to cream and one to, skim milk.
So when you went?
Then we went to Seymour. My grandpa would take me along, in horse and buggy. We went to Seymour, and he'd buy me a pair of shoes, so maybe a size bigger, almost too big. He dressed me up, and then we'd eat there in Seymour, and then go back home, done his grocery shopping. But them days, they used to make their own butter. My grandma made butter, and I used to have to help her churn that butter, regular churn. And then my grandpa done a lot of butchering, and they used to make their own head cheese and stuff and make sausage. And he used to have a big wash tub there with the pig's guts in there. We used to have to clean that out. He'd cut it so long. Then they'd run the water through the guts, different size guts. And then my grandma would she'd take the pig's head, cut most of the meat off and that, cut it in chunks, and she had a great big meat grinder there. And we'd grind that meat, and she'd take a lot of that pork and chunks and throw it in the meat grinder and made her own ground up meat and stuffed that sausage and made a lot of rings of sausage. And what else? Yeah, that's what I think she did.
Do you still do that?
Oh, no, my God, I wouldn't know how to do it anymore. That's so long ago. I just about remember, because I was about 10 years old then at the time when I used to help my grandma.
Did your parents speak the Oneida language?
Yeah, they did. Their mom and dad talked to each other. They talked Indian, but they never taught us. But I just listened to them, and then my grandpa and grandma couldn't talk English at all. All they could say was thank you and hello or something like that, But to talk English all the way through, they couldn't talk it. So that's why I learned it from listening to them, and I'd ask. And then my grandpa and grandma, them days, they wouldn't let kids come to school. They had to be 7 years old before you could go to school. So I stayed with my grandpa and grandma since I was 4 years old. Well, back and forth, my mom and dad would come get me, and my grandpa and grandma would be right back after me and keep me, wagon days or horse and buggy days. And my grandma and grandpa would bring a great big basket, homemade butter, lots of butter, and she made some homemade cookies and bread. She'd bring it all to my mom and dad. Trade that off for me, and they took me, and I went back with them. And I stayed with them weeks at a time. I spent most of my time till I was 7, then I had to go back home. Of course, I was back and forth. I didn't stay with them all the way through.
What about the white corn? The white corn,
oh,
corn
yes, my
soup
grandpa had a lot of that.
Cornbread?
Yes, yeah. My
Was
grandma
that-
made cornbread. I used to have to help her with that, grind that corn, make flour out of it, clean the kidney beans that come from the garden. We had to get that trashed out.
Do you know how to make the corn soup?
Oh, I kind of forgot. I ain't seen that done for a long time. That was the only time I seen it made was when I was with my grandpa and grandma. Then, I don't know, well, after a while I was big enough to go to school, so I went to school, so I wasn't doing so much with the folks, you know, with like making stuff like that, cornbread and that.
You say you went to, you can remember going to the store or going to town in Seymour.
Yeah. Then my folks used to do shopping in the pier most of the time, in all them stores. But we didn't go around too much with them when they went shopping.
Where did your parents go to church?
Methodist. But my dad really belongs to the Presbyterian church. But he never went there. He went to my mother's church.
Tell us what you remember about a Sunday.
Well,
a typical Sunday day.
We used to go to church on Sundays, and I used to go to Sunday school with the rest of the kids. And every Sunday we'd go to church, and my grandma would invite us over there for a big meal sometimes because they were old and they couldn't get around so much. So my grandma used to like to cook and bake, and everything was homemade, bread and everything. And we'd go there, or either we'd eat at home. My ma would stay home now and then. And she'd cook up on Sunday, and my dad would take us to church. And
Do you remember who was the minister at the church at the time?
Gosh, I forgot that so long ago that when we had that minister, the last minister I knew was Mr. Weinberg.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one married me.
All right, tell me, you went to school up at Silver Summit, you said?
Elm Hill.
Elm Hill,
Mhm.
I'm sorry. And when you finished there, what did...
No, I only went to the 7th grade.
Oh.
And they only had grade school there. It was all up to the 8th grade, I think it was that time. And there's just one great big room, and a teacher had to take care of them all. And maybe the 1st grade over there, and 3rd grade over, or 2nd grade here, and 4th grade over here, all in spaces, you know. It was just one open room. And I went to school mostly all farmer kids. There was only about 9 of us Indians who went to school there at that time. That's the only school I went to.
When you finished school, did you go back and do work around the house, or did you
Yes, I used
go
to
to
help
work?
my mother, and then as I got older, around 14, 15 years old, and I used to go, I had an aunt living in Menasha, Nina Menasha, and they didn't have no kids. They used to come and get me, and I'd go stay with them. And then I worked housekeeping for Francis King. I don't know if you know, they're dead now. Francis King and his wife Christine. I used to go work for them. I worked house cleaning, you know, just doing. I didn't do no cooking, just house cleaning and that. Then I went and worked for, when I came back, I was through down there, and I came back, and then I went and worked with Johnny Jurgerson at that time. He was married to this Evelyn Johnson. It's Garrett Johnson's family, one of the girls. This John Jurgerson was married to her, and I used to go do the same thing, housework.
Was Johnny Jurgensen Oneida?
No.
Okay.
He was I don't know if he's a Norwegian or what he was. Sloan.
Sloan.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, up to that time, then, is that when you got married? Shortly after that?
Yeah, I was 21 when I got married.
And who did you marry?
I married a Menominee guy from Kashina. His name was Michael Grignon. And
Did he?
then I moved away from here and never lived here till just 2 years ago. I moved back here.
Where did you move to?
Kashina,
Okay.
up there, up in the woods. And I had 8 children, and I just got 3 left now.
Tell me about The difference between here and Kashina.
Oh.
Is there a great deal of difference, or pretty similar?
There is some little difference there. Up there, they had lots of woods up there anyway. They done a lot of hunting. They got their own game, like fishing and deer and venison, whatever, and bear and muskrats. And they trapped muskrats. They cooked them up, and squirrels, everything you could think of. And wild game, they ate. They cooked it.
And that's.
And then they didn't do much farming or planting, anything like that. It was just enough to a small garden or something like that. They were more for hunting and fishing and stuff like that. And then they picked their own herbs, medicines. Like the old ladies there, I used to go with them. And I used to go with them, my mother-in-law, a bunch of old ladies would get together and go out to the cranberry marsh, and we used to go pick cranberries. And I was up to over my knees in the water in the marsh, all weeds and everything in there. And sometimes I'd kneel down, we'd tie a belt around us and put a pail or basket in front of us here, and then go like this and reach down into the water and pull in with our hands with cranberries. We'd fill those buckets, and then we had to dump it in a gunny sack or bags like that. And then there's a lot of people in Chano, them stores, they'd order for cranberries, so we'd sell those bags of cranberries to Chano, to them stores down there. And I was in that marsh a lot of times. I was up to here, and then someplace wasn't too deep, so I knelt down in there. I was never scared in there. I didn't think of anything, where today, now, these girls or women or anybody felt a little weed, they run and scream, thinking there's something crawling around in there. I never was scared. I used to like to go out there. Then we used to go pick blueberries. There was a lot of blueberries them days, and they had a lot of blackberries and raspberries. I used to go help picking them too. And then I'd go help them pick the herbs, medicines and weeds. They looked like weeds to me, but they were medicine. They knew what they were, I didn't know what they were for.
Well, you raised your family up there then?
Yes, my kids were all raised up there.
I see.
But my kids went to school after they were old enough to go to school.
Go ahead, there's a fly got in here.
Oh,
It's okay, it's gone.
I don't feel it anymore. What was I going to say?
Your kids went to school up there?
Oh, yeah, they went to school 1 year there, and they don't like Indian school, and they just cried and everything. They said they want to go back to school, to an Indian school. So my kids went to school, some went to Chano, and then I lived further up towards Oconto that way. So it's in Oconto County, but it was still on a reservation line. And my kids went to school in Gillett. And then my grandchildren came from Chicago, and I kept them too, 2 or 3 of them. And they wouldn't go to Indian school either, and they went to Gillett.
How many grandchildren do you have?
Oh, I lost track. I had, last time I had about 38 grandchildren, and I think I got about 15 great-grandchildren. Like I say, I didn't come from a big family. And my brother Urban Adams, we're the only 2 was married. He was married and I was married. And I'm the only one had children, and he had 22 children. So there's about 16 living yet. Those are my nieces and nephews, and they don't live around here. There's a couple in Chicago, and then the rest are in Minneapolis.
I.J. Adams, is that?
That's my baby brother.
That's your baby brother? Okay.
I.J. used to call him.
Yeah, I.J. Yeah.
He used to go around places and jig around. He used to go to the bars, and them guys would get him to jig and everything. He used to like to jig.
He used to work in the woods quite a bit.
Yeah. And he used to go tell some tall stories too. And that's what they liked about him. And he had a lot of friends all over. I don't care where he went. Seemed like he knew everybody wherever he went. They knew him too. And they liked him because he was such a big beeliner.
There's a Grignon that works at the Neville Museum in Green Bay. Is that any of your relation?
What's her first name?
Oh, he's a big fellow. I don't know, but I just thought it might be your relation.
Oh, I don't know.
Probably is.
It could be out of my
Yeah.
husband's, it's my husband's side. yeah.
What, after all those years being up in, was it Kashina, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You decided to move back to Oneida.
Yeah, because all my husband passed away in 1960, and my kids, some of them passed away, and I got left alone up there and have no folks up there no more. My other kids, older, they moved back here. 2 of them are in Green Bay now, and one here in Oneida. That's my daughter, Elfrida. She's my oldest, Elfrida Grignon.
Now, from the time that you were growing up, and of course you've been back and forth
Yeah.
during those times, but
Yes.
you've seen a lot of changes here. What do you see as the most
Changed around here?
biggest changes that you can think of? Yeah.
Oh, the homes, a lot of homes, nice homes, beautiful homes. And you've got some nice roads now and lots of new roads. I don't know. I know they say, oh, we're going up on they name some road. I don't know where it is. And they talk about this one, some people, you know this one? No. You know, I really don't know anybody out here anymore. I got to get acquainted all over again. And I'm just now getting acquainted now, like these ladies here, just got acquainted with them I worked. I used to know them a long time ago when we were young. Amanda I didn't know, but I knew Evelyn. And there's quite a few I used to know. And I used to chum around with this, what's her name, Leona McCarroll, used to be Leona McCarroll. And there's Virginia Denny. Virginia's gone. And the one guy, they used to call him Billy Buck and Bill Denny, I guess
He's
his
still
name.
around here.
Yeah. There's a lot of them that's gone that I used to chum around with. That's like I say now, I don't know anybody. I just,
Well, in terms of, yeah. Why don't you give me some ideas in terms of what you'd like to be able to tell the kids that are coming up? What kind of advice would you like to be able to give them, if you could?
well, all I can say is I've been talking to them that I hope they go to school and get some education because that's what they need nowadays to get a decent job, good paying job. I said to, go to school and try and finish something, whatever they want to learn, take up. And because I didn't have much schooling myself, So I want to see them get up there and be something, make something of themselves. That's all I could say. I know.
In your, when you were living up in Kashina, were you involved with the tribal government at all?
No.
What about any kind of, any of the societies up there? Were you involved in any of the societies?
Oh, I didn't
Was your
go
husband?
any place hardly them days up there.
Because they used to have I don't know if they got a big drum up there. But
Oh no, I never went to them.
No? up in
It's
Zor or
Yeah,
Neopet?
I've heard all that, but I never went to them. It's just towards lately, these last couple of years, then I just start going.
any of
And
their
that wasn't
powwows?
very,
Did you go to any of their
I
powwows
went
at all?
to them one,
Okay.
but I didn't go very often.
Okay. Okay, well, we thank you for
Oh, okay.
coming in and sharing with us.
Yeah.
It's really good. Wasn't so hard, huh?
No, I guess it wasn't bad.